All right, thanks for hopping on the maintainer onboarding for the Web IDE project. Last time we talked about a crash course to all the different moving parts of the project, but now we're going to actually pair up on issues, which is probably the best way to become more familiar with what reviewing MRs and the different components inside the project itself. So I have an issue for us to pick up. Before I do that, are there any questions or something before we just start pairing on a specific problem?
Just one question. You mentioned there was like this component. I can't remember the name now, but like one of the components you wanted to, like very quickly go over. So will we have the chance to do this today?
Oh man, I completely forgot what my component that I would want to go over, but it's probably one of the packages. I think it was mediator commands.
Yeah, the mediator, exactly.
I think we're gonna actually run into it. So
Nice.
so let's just let it naturally come out as we pair and stuff. Hey Shakar, I knew you were coming. I was like,
Hey, sorry, buddy, I'm late. There's sound at the
you're
door,
fine.
so I had to go. Yeah, fetch them from downstairs. So apologies.
No, it is no problem at all. All right. Okay, let me share my screen and I'll introduce the issue that we'll pair on, and then I'll also drive, and we can go from there. So there is a bug in the project, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't confirmed this, but I'm pretty sure it also failed on the old Web IDE. So this bug, I think, has been around a lot longer than we expect. But we gotta fix it either way. The situation is, if I am viewing the project here and I'm not on a branch, but I'm actually on a commit. Let's say I'm like here. Yeah. So, and then maybe if I view the file at a specific commit, and then I go to open in Web IDE, this will blow up. Oh, why are you complaining that I can't open projects? Oh, it's already freaking out. Come on. What are you doing? Oh, that's weird. But either way, let's say if instead of being in the blob, I'm here in just the tree at the top here, and I go to edit in the Web IDE. All right, boom. Yeah, it blows up because we're looking for a branch, because we have a branch picker and we expect to commit to a branch, all sorts of things like that. So we kind of blow up if the user manages to find themselves opening the Web IDE with a ref that is not a branch. So what's the desired behavior? Would be, I think would either we can improve the error message, but I think we can do more than that. I think there's nothing preventing us from loading everything up other than right now we are just looking for branch names. But maybe if something isn't a branch and is still like a ref, we can somehow flag it that we are in a ref that's not a branch yet. So that's the idea. Does that kind of make sense? Kind of what we're hoping to accomplish, make this seem seamless.
How do you pass the ref today to the? So because you need to pass the current ref somehow to the Web IDE, right? So is that something that you pass as parameters into the iframe so that it knows where it is?
Yep, that's a really great question. So let me open up the Web IDE project. So talking about, so clearly the ref is a URL parameter here. That gets consumed by the IDE controller in the Rails project. But the way it gets passed into the Web IDE project, all of that communication from Rails into this project, that's in this main entry point in the Web IDE package when we start the thing, and it takes one glorious config file. And so this glorious config file, here's the client only config contains commands, ref. Yeah. What branch are we trying to open up here? Well, not just a branch. Clearly, there is an assumption made here.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so we get this and this config, and this gets initially handed off into our entry point, and then the config gets serialized into the iframe that we make, and then that thing that bootstraps VS Code can take the config and do certain things with it.
And then how does that finally so this then passes it onto the iframe URL, or does it do like a post message to pass it? How does it like?
It's a good question. So I think right now we are, yeah, we're just hard coding into the iframe itself, and then we parse it out in our point of the.
Got it. And so it just goes into the iframe. So the iframe on load has access to that config.
Yep.
Okay, and then within the Web IDE loads up in the iframe, and then it reads that config presumably, and then it needs to pass like the ref or whatever to the Git provider, right? So it needs to go tell the Git provider, hey, here's the ref that you need to like check out.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So let's look at the package that Bootstrap is such a bad verb for this, but it's the one that's committed into the project. The one that bootstraps VS Code and everything, that picks up the config and kicks things off. Let's see how it uses.
Utils and Bootstrap are the most overused.
I know. I know. Just as long, I'm just glad it's not called the VS Code Bootstrap Manager.
Yeah, I know, a factory or something.
I know. So the entry point to the iframe, which is this, we probably should call this frame or something like this. This is the entry point of that whole iframe. That gets the config from the DOM, and then it starts up. We have two flavors of the Web IDE that will start up. One flavor is the full Web IDE. The other is this remote development thing. And Shakar, you might be able to provide insight into this, but something tells me we can actually get rid of the remote development stuff that's our old remote development implementation, because now that we have workspaces,
yeah, I suspect so. Like
I gotta talk we gotta talk to Eric about it, but like, so history is that there were two ways the Web IDE could start up. One was a fully connected VS Code was connected to some sort of VS Code server that the user entered some parameters to, and that's anytime you see remote versus client only, that's what that differentiating thing is. But now that we actually have a more robust remote development offering, I don't think we actually need this. But anyways, that's why we have names like remote and client only existing in the code base. But for all intents and purposes, we're really only interested in client only. And that takes the glorious config. And the way it uses this is when we set up some of the VS Code workbench options. But then it also uses it for, what does it also use it for? Yes. Uses it for this thing where we create commands. So this is that weird package I was wanting to dive into. Create commands comes from these VS Code mediator commands. So right now we are inside of iframe context. And for all of this to work seamlessly, we needed a way for when I'm inside an extension, I want to seamlessly be able to assume authentication from the session context, even though extensions run in this sandbox environment. So the way I stumbled upon an edge to solving this problem was VS Code allows me to create a set of commands when I start up VS Code that can be hit from any sandboxed extension. So normally an extension declares its own commands, and extensions all run inside a sandbox environment for security reasons, so that extensions don't bump into each other or steal user secrets or whatever like that. Since we're not connected to the extension marketplace, and our main priority was we want a seamless authentication experience, using commands that run in this iframe context, naturally inheriting the cookie session and stuff like that, seemed like a good first iteration to creating a seamless environment. So these mediator commands are different than normal commands that an extension would declare. These mediator commands are commands that need to inherit the user's session context. And so all of our like API requests go through these mediator commands. And so the extension project will import these command IDs. And that's how it'll interface with these mediator commands. And then this is where we're declaring all these mediator commands. So some more history around all this is because I kind of viewed mediator commands as a necessary evil and hadn't thought a whole lot about it. I had tried to create only when we needed a very specific command, that's when we would have it. And so we have, things like start, and that is kind of the entry point for starting up, pulling the context that we need and all sorts of stuff. And we can see where this thing gets called. But since then, now, especially now that we're integrating the workflow, GitLab workflow extension, our main desktop VS Code extension, to being Web IDE aware, we don't want to have mediator commands that do a lot. And so instead, we've introduced this fetch from API that takes in a request object and knows how to execute and return it. And this is kind of, in retrospect, what I wish the mediator commands only did, but for some security reasons, we were thinking of not doing it this way. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about from that. Does anyone have any questions about mediator commands as we're talking about this?
I'm curious. So for the mediator commands package, are we documenting that API? Is it going to be supported, or is this package only ever used from the Web IDE?
Only ever used from the Web IDE. That's a good question. Yeah. This is only ever used internally. So let me see if I can find, yeah, so here inside the VS Code extension Web IDE package, inside of here, this is where we're actually calling the start mediator command. So start is coming from, I've wrapped all these mediator command calls into nice little typed versions of that execute the generic execute command function. So it's only this package that really consumes it, with the exception of the mediator commands that the workflow extension needs. And so that's where the interop package comes in, that's our file of a shared interface that we've agreed upon for this Web IDE project and the VS Code extension project. But for just the Web IDE, this is the internal Web IDE that extension, that's the engine of everything that creates the file system and the source control and kicks everything off. So it references this start mediator command, passing into start a possible ref that we're starting with. And so that's kind of where we need to start, is in this start mediator command. And we can jump into there and see all the things that it's doing. We could see from here, we get this thing, which is a start response that includes a whole bunch of goodies like the large list of files, what branch we're on, if we're on a merge request, what are the user's permissions, and we make decisions from this extension context based on all of that stuff. But all of this stuff requires user session context. So that's why we had to go through mediator commands to do this.
So
Yeah.
the start command, so that's the mediator command that actually what bootstraps the or figures out what the user's token is and stuff like that to actually make calls, or what is it? What's the
That's
purpose?
a great question. So start is a bad name for it. This was not like in retrospect, all of this probably we would have done it differently, and we are going to refactor and do it differently. But start is, and maybe this is also just inherited from the old Web IDE, but it was like all of those initial API calls. So it's like when the only information I have is this, all of the initial API calls to get the files, to get the user context, to get the merge request context, all of that, that's what start is all of the like initial API calls. Yeah. So let's jump into that. But before I do that, let me go ahead and start.
I'm surprised you didn't have to await that. Like, shouldn't you have to await start? I mean, like something
that's very observant. So yeah, so I think one of the things that has changed, that has evolved while we're doing this is it is getting awaited. But I guess for some reason, we wanted to there was some more initialization that didn't necessarily need to wait for this to be done, that we wanted to be available sooner than later.
I see.
Particularly
I see the await much later. I see the await much later. Yeah.
So
that strategic.
Definitely something that's not obvious and can be improved as well as we're looking at this.
I'm sure you optimized to the nth extent, Paul. Clearly you didn't want, you can't just wait for something to happen. You just do everything else in between. So
yeah. And I think like this whole project too, there's a lot to be improved with this extensions Web IDE project. One is like, so you can see we have clear domains that we're interested in, like our source control management. So these are all the modules related to that. Then like hooking things specifically into VS Code, like we have some VS Code specific stuff. But one of the things that's not great with this project is initializing stuff. So whenever a thing changes, like we've just made a new commit and we're going to refetch stuff, we destroy everything and then rebuild it with this initialize function. And so like we kind of need a better concept of like and systems that we just initialize and they can manage themselves here. And so I have some maintainability issues to refactor this whole package so that this is the smelliest part of it, of like how we just initialize everything and we're not able to. So there's clearly going to be a little complicated to follow, but the main intent is we get the stuff we need, we create all the stuff we need and register it with VS Code, and then we're ready. So that's kind of the whole intent here. But as you'd expect, it gets can become a lot. Thankfully, we're in TypeScript land, and so that prevents us from shooting ourselves in the foot too much. Cool. Well, let's hop into the start command. So I'm going to go to where we create the commands. So this is where we're registering the handler with the start command ID. So let me go to this module. And all right. So a lot of these command factories are functions that return functions. And so we inject into it the full config that we've received. We're also injecting into it our GitLab client, which I think we talked a little bit about last time. Since this is crossed out, this is probably our deprecated client that's using this. We won't worry about that at the moment. But you see, this is the main intent is we are fetching all the stuff we need. This is all about fetching and then return one glorious non-cohesive object to the extension context to then register everything. Okay, so looks like this is kind of an interesting line of code for our current problem. Here's a comment that's helpful about options that we can receive into this start command. So there's a ref that comes from the config, and then there's a ref that can come from options. Configs never change, but inside the Web IDE, I can actually change my branch and other things like that. And so we'll just call initialize, reinitialize, and that's where options, we may provide a ref that the user has specified that will actually load. Okay, let's see what resolve branch name is doing. If we have a ref at all, that's it. Otherwise, if we're a merge request, we're going to just pull it from the merge request. Otherwise, we return the project default branch. Okay. So the challenge here is ref. Here's the to-do. Ref could be a tag or commit, not always a branch.
Yep. So we want to rename the.
Look at that recommendation.
Is this ours?
I
It probably is.
Yeah. So I guess somehow we need to be able to tell what it is.
We probably should also rename that method to not just resolve. It says resolve branch name, but we probably should be resolve
blob.
Resolve
relevant ref or something. I don't know. Resolve ref name.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We have yeah, I think that's a good idea. But I'm not entirely sure where's the best place to do our logic. Like I feel like this is need to return more than a string, because
oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's times when we know, no, you need to assume this is a branch. And then there's times where, okay, now I need to actually check, is this a branch or not? Maybe, so there's actually the branch that we return from here is has a lot more of a, what's the word I'm thinking? The branch that we actually return from here has a lot more properties to it. So like when I create an empty branch, I have all this information along with it. And that's kind of what I'm almost thinking is with this type, I almost need to create a type that's like, we're not actually a branch yet or something. Like we're a pseudo branch.
Yeah, it's not a branch. It's just a
Get ref.
It's just a ref at this point, right?
Yeah.
But that won't work. Like you actually, like if it's an empty repo and that's a ref, you don't want to create another branch of that, right? That's what you're doing right now. You like create branch and then you're giving the ref name or something.
Well, so this I am, if it's an empty repo, this is a good question. If it's an empty repo, I'm returning the name of the default branch, but I think there's probably a place where I check for the like commit ID. And like if this is empty,
Well, actually, if it's an empty repo, you won't have a commit ref. Like it's not a problem that you have to solve anyway. Like you won't even have a ref, right? So it's not even like you don't even go into that that if condition afterwards. Yeah, it won't even come here because
yes, yeah. Yes, if we're an empty repo, yeah, we're super empty. And we handle like, oh, the branch is empty, you need to do a thing. And so that's like comes up when we commit the thing. Let's look at that behavior real fast. When I'm here and I go to commit and the command that's doing the commit, so here is where the user will get prompted of like, oh, do they need to do a branch selection? And if the project is empty, is like, oh, you need to just commit. We kind of that has a different edge to how the problem gets solved. Let's hop in. Let's maybe go first to what we actually return for the start command response. So this start command response, thinking of the intent here, is get all the things we initially need and return it to the extension. And so we get things like a list of files, information on the project, user permissions, merge request context, fork info. Then GitLab branch is kind of, okay, let's figure out what's actually do we want to return here? Because sometimes this isn't actually a branch. So GitLab branch is actually coming from this API client. And right now this type is just, this is the API response type of we get a branch. You know what I mean? So what's kind of like the desired return here? Do we want to maybe have like have a different types of a branch that we could return, you know? Like it's an actual branch or a ref, and based on if it's a ref, like the type is different, you know what I mean? Do we want to do something like that? Maybe renaming this to ref is a good idea. We'd have ref.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same. I think it makes more sense to use ref, or I mean, like branch could be a ref as well. So
exactly. I think that's brilliant. Let's do it. Okay. Before I just start plowing ahead, I want to get this thing running locally. Okay, great. Oh wait, one of the lessons I learned last time, and I continue to learn, is for the moment there's an issue with Firefox when working on this locally, because it doesn't break cache for some of the service worker stuff that happens. So it's easier to develop locally on Chrome. So I'm just going to set that up. And I'm going to make sure that I have disable cache. Okay. Yeah, we gotta implement the cache breaking stuff at some point. Okay, we're just gonna hit gitlab.com. Sweet. All right. So yeah, I think a good place to start is, let's change this type. We're gonna return ref. And here, these are API types that we're passing through to the extension, but it looks like our ref is actually gonna be different types. So
union type.
Yeah, I think we'll have something like, maybe we can even just do something like this, where it is a type, and if it's a branch, then we have branch that is a GitLab branch, or type ref, and then we just have the ref as a string. What do you think?
Why not a GitLab commit? Like, isn't there like a GitLab commit thingy?
I don't think we have one. We have like the payload that we send to commit. I don't think we have like the API response information for a commit. I don't even think we're doing anything with that quite yet. So I kind of don't know if we need to even split the knowledge between tags and commits either. Let's just keep it, you're in a branch or you're in a non-branch.
Okay.
What do you think? Sounds all right.
So refs are both tags, and let's put a comment there saying It refs both tags and commits, right?
Yeah. Branch is a bona fide branch that exists on the in the repo. So ref is
Really a ref.
yeah, could be a commit, hash, or a tag,
Tag. Yeah.
basically a non-branch. Yeah. Hey, Chad. All right. Cool. All right. So then let's replace this. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh no. Sorry. All right. I realize I didn't
Oh,
ask. Why does this all
paste.
say project? It doesn't make any sense.
Good suggestions.
I guess so. So instead of GitLab branch, we'll call it GitLab ref now. Okay. The ref for the current Web IDE context. Sweet. Okay. So now changing this type, what I love is it's going to give me all sorts of things I got to fix. So we can start fixing the command that now needs to actually return the correct stuff. Or we can fix how we consume this response. What do you think? Should we fix this command first, or should we go to fix the types of the
Let's fix the final state, like the consuming of the actual ref, so then we know whether we need to come back and like change other things then before we like fix
yeah,
minor
I like
issues.
it. So to get those failures, I can run yarn build TypeScript. I can get a list of the TypeScript failures here. So here in the start command, we're failing. Did you just all of a sudden just completely die on me, or you not actually? Why am I would expect you to fail a little bit more than that. Let's see why we're not failing even more. So here I'm in the Web IDE VS Code extension. Let me go to the entry point where I know that we call the start command. Okay, yeah, I'd expect TypeScript to start dying on me here, but I guess it kind of just, maybe I need to run clean first or something like that. Oh, I bet it's also as, yeah, I wonder if something like that. I wonder if we got failures elsewhere. Anyways, not important. And I know that there's a VS Code way for me to find the errors as well, but I don't usually find myself doing that. All right. We've got, I'm trying to register commands. And if I jump into here, it looks like we receive something that's like commands initial data. I'm not entirely sure what this is. Oh, but this is trying to pick from start command response only certain properties that we need. Branch isn't one of them now. So this now refs. Okay. Here, branch isn't a thing. It's now ref. Okay. GitLab file content provider. So
it'll be branch. If it's a branch, then branch. Otherwise, then branch or committed ID. Otherwise, just the ref, right?
Yep. So that sounds like maybe something we can do in line here of like, let's see. Yeah, let's see here. We also reference commit ID and stuff too. We could do something like this. It's not great. We could do something like type equals branch. Ref.ref that doesn't look good. Maybe I should rename it to something. Maybe I should rename it to name. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that naming seems like it doesn't match what it actually is in Git. Like a branch or a ref is a ref. Like a branch or a tag is a ref. So like calling something a ref that contains a branch is a little weird.
Is blob
Not
either?
type branch.
Blob or other, right?
Not saying you have to change it. I'm just saying it's a little weird.
Yeah. I'm open.
mean,
I'm open for
Yeah, we
suggestions.
could have called it branch and not branch. But then
If ref.type triple equals not branch, that would be. So one of the things.
I mean, the property would be SHA, right? Like both the ref, both a tag and a branch, like resolved to a SHA, and that's the thing that you want.
Yeah.
So it's okay to call this ref, but like it shouldn't contain a branch or a ref. Like it should just expose what's the SHA of this ref, regardless of what type of ref it is.
Yeah.
So if it's an interface, it just has like a method called ref. So all we do need is actually just a property called ref. SHA.
Yeah, I think I think I like that. So I almost might do this, where if we're here, we have branch, and we can say that we are. How do I spell GitLab? Why are you so upset? Okay.
It's like a union type. It could be a tag or a branch. That's what
Yes, and that's what I was trying to do here. And one of the things TypeScript is so good at is like if I do these union types and I give static values to the type, it can at compile time know under what context is the type supposed to be, which is great. Used as a value here. Oh, because I'm doing equals. That's why it's not enjoying anything that I'm doing here. Okay, so I have branch ref isn't a great thing, but if I didn't do GitLab, are we thinking like commit ref? And I can say type commit, and I can have SHA, and this one could also have SHA, which is maybe all of these refs have just a SHA that we're trying to attach to it.
Yeah, and the third one would be a tag if you ever support tags.
Yep.
Tag ref.
Yeah.
I was saying these would be types, concrete types, and then you'll just have an interface saying GitLab SHA, which just has a SHA property, so we can retrieve it everywhere. But yeah.
So then what I'm thinking is then this could be like this. We could say it's a branch ref, or it's a commit ref, or it's a tag ref. Do we kind of like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that lines up with the Git, like the Git SEM book as well. So Git reference in the book is blobs, trees, commits, tags, essentially.
Okay, let's keep it like this. And I like how we can then, when we initialize all these things, I don't have to dive into knowing, I don't have to break encapsulation and know like, how do I get the SHA? Well, if it's a branch, it's this thing. If it's tag, it's this thing. If it's commits, this thing. Let's just have that be part of the read property here. Cool.
Yeah, I was thinking GitLab ref would be any type that has a SHA. Like that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And
I think that makes sense. We could make like GitLab base ref, and then like have all of these extend that. But
yeah,
that's not super necessary. Like TypeScript is pretty good at just being able to figure itself out. Okay, so that's great, because then I don't have to do all of this, and I can just do branch SHA. Oh wait, no, it's called ref. SHA. And then I can go here. I guess we called it commit ID, but now we're calling it SHA. Cool. All right. So we got some errors here where we're expecting
ref as well.
What do you say?
Ref as well.
Yeah. We'll have to maybe first jump into this
Yeah.
thing. So it looks like these are the source control setup options. Take in a branch, but let's make it a ref, and we'll call it GitLab ref. Okay, am I exporting? Oh, good, I am exporting it. All right. You don't need that thing anymore. Up. Okay, then we get ref. Let's see how we use branch. Okay, and I'm just kind of, yeah, I'm just kind of following the trail here. Here, this thing we get, we're actually gonna get a ref. GitLab ref. Okay. We'll throw the ref in there. Create VS Code source control. Jump into there. Ref. GitLab ref. Okay, so this is where this is one of the situations that we would want to think about how we do it based on what kind of ref we have checked out. We're showing commit to a certain thing, but if I'm on a non-branch, I can't really commit to that thing. You know what I mean? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a thing called git commit button text based on ref. Okay, GitLab ref string, and if ref dot type equals branch. Why are you upset? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to do something like this. Okay. I am really frustrated with stop recommending code to me. All right. So if I'm here, I will then do ref branch name. Else, I think I'm just gonna say commit command text. So we'll just do something like that. What do you think?
But if it's a tag or a commit, if it's a tag or just a commit SHA, you don't actually want to show any commit button text, right? You want to in fact disable the button because they can't really commit into a commit.
Right. I think it'll have to be like commit to new branch. You're probably right. So it'll probably have to be like to new branch.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's gonna be the way it'll go. And we'll implement that after we resolve our type issues. Oops. Okay, so this file is good. Let's go back. Here. Oh, yeah, that one's good. I just need to use ref here instead of branch. Great. The commit command. Yes, the commit command is expecting, instead of GitLab branch, this is now GitLab ref. Oops, I gotta word it. So one of the things too across the project that we've overlooked and we can improve upon is you can actually tell TypeScript to just import types from a thing. And it's nice to do that distinction so that TypeScript knows, okay, again, this is just a type specific import and I can strip things out on compilation time. Okay, cool. We receive a ref. Let's see how this gets used. Okay. Getting the actual branch selection, we'll pass the ref into there. Okay, cool. Let's jump into there. Get branch selection options. We've got our ref. GitLab ref. Boom. Okay. Yeah, I don't need this anymore. Up, up. All right. Oh man. Oh mamas. Okay. All right. What are we trying to do here? So this is
Oh, that's pretty cool. We have that error message as well.
yeah,
I think ref name is probably
So-
okay, right?
ref name.
Can push is interesting.
Yeah. So at this point, we have two things that happen. We either prompt for a branch name, and that's a pre-existing thing, because like if you're pointing to the main branch, we'll be like, hey, are you really sure you want to push to the main branch? And we'll do that behavior. So I
Where
kind
is
of
that? Maybe we should set that to true actually. So if it's not a like, where does it get set? So I think we should set it to true if it's anything but a branch.
I think you're right. And I think that might be all we need to do. So I'm almost want to do something like this. We could do something. I agree that, yeah, it's probably better if we can, if type does not equal branch, or I did too many. Is that too many equals? That was too many equals. Yeah. So we'll just pass ref to here, but then otherwise I can assume that ref is a branch and all these are going to be okay. Does that make sense? We're going to test all this out. We're just resolving type issues at the moment. Prompt branch name. So instead of something like this,
I think ref name is probably fair there.
yeah, we'll
Do you think we need the context of the whole? Any
that's
other?
a really great question. Do you want to just make, yeah, we can maybe just call it ref name. You want to just try that out? Or we can just call it ref. Ref name makes sense because we've been calling ref as a larger type for the rest of the project. Okay, please stop suggesting stuff. Does anyone know how to turn it off? I hate doing that, but I'm gonna have to. Is there a way to turn off the suggestions? I gotta figure that out sometime. All right. Ref name. Okay. Yeah, we'll try that out. That should be cool. Let's see what happens there. So then here, to get the actual name of it, it's not going to be the SHA. But let's just do that for right now, and I'll add a to-do of the SHA is not the name. Please stop. Okay, so going back up the stack here, we'll pass in ref. Boom, we're good here. And we'll pass in ref. Boom, we're good here. All right, I think we got just one more. Init. So I'll change this to ref branch status bar item, where let's go ahead and get the whole ref, GitLab ref here. Up, 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 up. Okay. So I am sensing like a need to somehow pull the name, the visible name from based on what the ref is. We can either make that like a shared property that all the different types have to do, or we can create a helper that knows how to find the name based on the types.
Yeah, exactly. I think we can create a helper.
Okay.
That will just pull out the name based on the type.
Let's maybe just create, let's create a little, let's create a little thing maybe within this project. Oh, look at this helpful directory, utils. Oh, yeah, I love it. Git ref name. Utils, export const, git ref. Oh, no, no, you're not right. You're not right. Okay, if ref.type equals branch, return ref.branch.name. If ref.type equals tag, return ref.name. Else return ref.shop.
Or just say new, because you need to know, or just new branch, new, you know what I mean? Like ref.char is just a lot of text for them to delete. But
What?
anyway, I mean, they'll have to delete all of the text, right? And actually put in a real name. So I was wondering whether you just give an empty string.
But this is also used for like down here, like what branch you've actually checked out. And so if I'm just on the SHA and I have no other
Oh, I
information
see.
about
I
it,
see.
is like maybe that's just where we're at, you know.
I see. Okay. Makes sense.
So then I think here I'm going to do something like name equals get ref name ref. Boom. But yeah, we should go back to here where we were prompting for the branch name, generating the branch name. Or yeah, we
Yeah,
did this. Yes, we should call it
get ref name.
ref name equals get ref name ref. All right. So I think we've resolved
Cool
type
storage.
errors in this package that consumes all of it. I think then we have the type errors in the other package. And then in the mediator commands, which is actually creating the.
But where's the actual, like the, I mean, you need to make the API calls to, that's the mediator command, right? To check out the actual like graph. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so here. So here we're at something interesting. All right. We've got here, I think we resolved the branch name, and that's okay. So we're pulling what is the actual ref we're trying to use. And that could be a branch name or it could be a ref. Maybe we need to rename this to resolve ref name. Does that sound like a good idea? All right. Resolve ref name. We're going to call you ref name. And then if we're in an empty repo, we're just going to assume you're using this empty branch thing. Does that sound all right? So when we create an empty branch, we'll call this a GitLab ref, but it's going to be something like type branch. Oh, geez.
Well, are you doing a type assertion there?
We had a thing, Shaw. Why are you so upset? What am I missing? Oh, I'm missing a curly brace. Yeah, it's not gonna be happy if I do that. Okay.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we're creating an empty branch of our new ref type, which wraps. So this is all like GitLab API type stuff, but we're just treating it like a branch. Here is like, we're not an empty project. So we need to actually figure this out. And this is the line that's blowing up and everything dies. So We need to I think because tag names can be anything, I feel like we have to almost like check tags first, right? Like we have to check if this is a tag.
Yeah, so I think we need I mean we need an API call to check whether it's a branch or a tag or just a commit, right? And
Well,
then I think we need that earlier, right? I mean, I think we can even classify it even before it gets here. Because when we are actually whenever we are asserting that into a ref type, or we don't actually at this stage. Yeah, so yeah, maybe in there then.
Under the covers, these are just ref specs, which is like the refs, heads, whatever. And I don't know, just stepping back, maybe that would be a better way to have the raw representation of it. And then you can just have methods which look at that and tell what type it is. That would work more like Git itself. But I don't know if that would be too abstract for what you're trying to do here. If you should make this match more like the porcelain UI where you're actually only working with tags and branches.
Yeah.
Whatever's more compatible with VS Code, probably.
when can you say that again? That's
So like if here I was while you were doing that, I was like looking at I'll drop another link here. Like under the covers, a ref is just like this path, you know, plus refs, heads, whatever, and a tag or branch, or you know, there's two types of tags, or if your head is just pointing to a detached head, those are all just like pointers to this ref spec, which is this string saying
yes,
where does
yes, I see what you're saying.
what tree, what SHA-1 does this point to, which is a tree, which
I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where like ref might not be the best name for this thing, but we do need to somehow distinguish between this input parameter that we get from the route. What kind of thing have you given me? Because we want to know, are you on a branch? That's going to have different UI behavior than like, are we not on a branch?
Right. And like Git knows that based off of like its internal metadata, but you can also like, you know, if it's refs tags or refs something else.
Right, right. I don't think we have backend API endpoints for this, but
The get tree thing that Aaron just pasted,
really?
like that, yeah, the GraphQL API would
Yeah.
probably.
So what I went ahead and did is I just went to the GraphQL Explorer and
Yes. Yes. But this doesn't give me information about
metadata about what type of ref it is.
Right.
I don't know of any metadata, but I'm just clicking through. I literally just built that query, so I'm sure there's additional fields to use here.
Yeah. And I'm familiar with this. I'm familiar with this GraphQL resolver, and like so across the application, we will yeah, I mean, this is interesting. You're right. I see how, yeah, we could use based on the ref and like the last commit information, we can get ideas from that. Because if it's like,
But we don't even need that. I'm pretty sure we can get in the tree object. There should be something that tells us what is the type, right?
Yeah, there is a ref type. That's a property of tree.
So let's try to get that out and see.
get
I'm just trying to
a ref type. All right. I know we're at time. So we can I think the oh yeah, there is. Okay. Okay, what? No, what? I got to look it up. Yeah,
But it's got heads and tags. At least that tells you a lot.
yeah, this seems like an enum that must be referenced somewhere else. Yeah, I bet the GraphQL API there might be something that where I can just give it a generic ref and it will tell me what the type is. That would be lovely.
Exactly.
If not, the fallback that we've kind of thought about was, let's see if it's a tag. let's see if it's a branch. Then you must be a commit. Like that's kind of was the fallback.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's always that fallback, but I might we might spend some time. I'm going to review what we did with the APAC folk, and then we'll push it forward. The APAC folk and I will push it forward and see if there's a helpful endpoint for this. If you all have any other ideas, feel free to drop on that issue. Even just the onboarding issue of like, oh, we could maybe use as an endpoint for checking it out. I'll go ahead and push up what we did so far in a work in progress MR. But yeah, this is super helpful. Thanks for hopping on. And I feel like it's lovely. TypeScript, you just make the core change and then just follow the threads, and it's pretty good.
Follow the 600 red marks, and you know you get
just one little thread at a time. Yeah, it's like knitting. All right, I'll catch you all later.
All right, thank you.
See you.